I'm going to be talking about a grief process called the 3 questions. It was developed by Dr. Frank Schneider. To begin with, when we think about grief, there are many ways of thinking about how we might move through that process, and this is just one, but one that I find is really relevant to most people. So what we begin with is the very beginning, the acute grief, the raw grief. And the question that we muddle through in that first stage is, what is lost? What is lost? And we are so immersed in that question of what is lost that literally everything around us, within us, is experienced through a filter of that question, what is lost? And so one of the metaphors that I use is our hand as the loss, is the filter. And it's as if that filter were right here. And if we look around, everything that we see and taste and smell is filtered by the experience of what is lost. So for example, if someone were to say to me, who had lost a child, oh, but you have a daughter and she's beautiful. And in reality, in those moments, in those days and weeks right after a loss, when I am immersed in the question of what is lost, a suggestion even about my daughter, whom I love and love dearly, would not have made a difference because what I'm focused on is the loss. So that's that first question that we muddle through. In process and in time, and I say that very intentionally because it's not just a matter of time. Without being in a process, time is not our healer. But with time and process, this filter begins to move out. And so when it's out here, I have some peripheral vision. And I can begin then to hold the question of what is left. And that doesn't mean that I'm not going to move back and forth between what is lost and what is left over and over and over again. But I begin to focus more on what is left, what is still intact in my life, what has not been distorted or filtered at this point by my loss. Things such as memories. Things such as the traits that are of the essence of who we are, which we may not discover in that first dipping into this second question, but the question of what is left is then that second movement in the questions. And then again, in process and time, and a much longer, generally, period of time than it was between the first question and the second question, we move to that third question. And this metaphor that we're calling our filter of loss begins to move out here. And yes, it's still connected to me. It's still part of who I am. But look at what I have the vision to see. It is no longer in the way of everything that I see and feel and taste and hear. It is not that kind of an immersive filter. I have the horizon before me, and so the question that I can now hold is what is possible? What is possible not only now that I have moved through my grief, what is possible, but what is possible because I have moved through my grief? Who am I now? What is possible? What is possible as I have moved to a place of carrying this loss in a new way? So it's out here. It's always going to be part of who I am. It's not always going to be an important chapter in my life, but it doesn't define me. It's not my identity. Back when I was answering that question, what is lost, I would have said to you, my identity was, I'm a bereaved parent, or I'm a bereaved spouse. But when I get here, and I've integrated that loss into a bigger story about my life, it is one important piece that has formed me, but it's not my identity. So those are the three questions. And Schneider says that his definition of grief is that it is a normal process after the death of someone or something to which we are really attached. And in that process, we discover the extent, the limit, and the possibilities as a result of our grief and our loss. Thank you. I hope that's helpful.